Welcome back, YCN Sports Talk. Jeremy Stout, Brett Franklin in studio. We move over to the Patriots. Off-season obviously has already begun, and now the big-time NFL draft starting Thursday night with round number 1, and then rounds 2 and 3 on Friday, wrapping up on Saturday. Patriots, Brett, they have obviously the 32nd pick, and then they have 6 picks in the first 101, so they got some good stockpile of picks in rounds 2 and 3. Your thoughts overall, just what you think of the Patriots, and what do you think they'll do?
Yeah, very interesting. Obviously, 32nd pick overall, as you said. You know, last year they had 2 first-round picks, and they stuck with them, which was unusual. And that so we had a stat earlier this week on the radio. I think it was, and I could be wrong, Bill Belichick has traded up in the draft 24 times in his coaching career with the Patriots, and he's traded down 21 times, which I didn't think it was that that balanced.
Right.
I would be surprised if the Patriots trade up.
Yeah.
Would not surprise me if they trade out of the 32nd round, out of that 32nd pick, because obviously first round money, second round money, big difference in what you have to pay. I mean, to get in the head of Bill Belichick, it's really hard to do. And, you know, you look at the 32nd overall pick, and I think it's, again, who is there, the value you can get a guy at, because, again, I think they have a pretty early second-round pick, too, that, you know, so you pretty much have 3 or 4 picks relatively close to each other at the end of the first round and early second round. But, I mean, you know, there are needs, obviously. I think you look at secondary, trying to beef up the secondary a little bit with some safety help. Obviously, the tight end position as well. I think the Patriots always love a good defensive player, you know, whether that be another linebacker or defensive lineman. And then, obviously, quarterback. Where do you know? Do they draft a quarterback high, which, you know, for us is second, third round? But, I mean, your guess is as good as mine, Jeremy, as far as where they're going to go.
Well, exactly. And it does look like, from my standpoint, it's wide receiver, tight end, and then a defensive lineman might be their top picks. But we know the history and luck or bad luck that the Patriots and Belichick have had drafting wide receivers in the draft. It's tough. You get a guy you go with the most overall talent, the fastest guy, and we can teach him things. You go with a guy who knows playbooks, and you can teach him other things. Or maybe a defensive lineman. Now, trading or not trading, like you said, I was surprised by that stat. You would think that Belichick would have traded down more often than he would have traded up, but those teams get desperate towards the end of the first round, and they want to jump back into that first round, so you might get a top pick in the second round. If you had to guess, first of all, what position do they take? Just a pure guess, or do they trade out of that first pick, the 32?
If you had to put a gun to me, I would say they'd probably trade out.
Okay. Yeah.
But it would not surprise me if they drafted either.
Right.
But if they say they do hang on to it and they do make a draft, choice, probably tight end or wide receiver.
That's what I was going to say.
The two tight ends out of Iowa. I mean, you got to imagine one of those guys are going to be there, because tight end is not really a huge need for some of the teams that are ahead of the Patriots. But like you said, there's so many desperate teams willing to move up that need quarterbacks. Can you get some value out of that? Maybe, you know, even to next year. But if they do stick with the 32 pick, I do think they'll go offense. But again, nothing would surprise me if they came out and picked a defensive lineman.
Right, exactly. That's the thing with the draft in general, and obviously Bill Belichick. And then, like you mentioned, is this the year they get their quarterback? It seems like every couple of years we say, well, Brady's going to be gone in a few years.
They got to do it,
We got to do it. And now's a time where there's a lot of quarterbacks going in the first round. We'll talk about that later. But also, later in the draft, there's some QBs that might be available. Is this the year they maybe take a gander on one of those guys?
Been saying this for the last 3 years, right, Jerry?
We think they will every year.
You know, and I've heard, and you know, and even driving down here today, you know, listening to the draft experts, if you will, that this quarterback class is not as great as people make it out to be. And listen, I think if there is value there in the third or fourth round, they're going to do it. But I think historically for the Patriots, they like to load up on defense, right? Like wide receiver is a position they can go out and they can try and find. I know they brought in Demaryius Thomas, whether or not he'll make it out of camp. There's a whole other story here. But I just think like the safest play the Patriots go with is drafting defensive-minded players. I would be very surprised if there's a quarterback taken in the top, you know, in the first 5 rounds. But, I mean, if we see a guy taken in the second, third round, I mean, that's going to raise some eyebrows. Again, I couldn't tell you who that guy's going to be. But seeing where they're drafted, I mean, that's going to be big because Jimmy Garoppolo was a second-round pick.
Yeah, that seems to be what they try to do to get that replacement for Brady. We'll see if it happens again this year. We'll take our final break, come back, talk some more draft. We'll also have our Salt Hill Pub Picks of the Week. You're watching YCN Sports Talk.